All right, well, this hot little number right here, this side folding, piston driven AR pistol is the Brownells BRN-180. All right, if you have never seen the BRN-180 or the original AR-180 or the AR-18, this thing was designed decades ago by Armalite in the AR-18 and the AR-180. They did not make a whole bunch of those things and actually got to test out an original Armalite AR-180. I got a video on that, I'll link it down below. Very cool, true piece of history. But this is the remake of it from Brownells, which is really cool because this thing is a dual recoil spring, piston driven, adjustable gas stock that you can get from 10.5 all the way up to, I think they have even 18-inch ones now. And they are very cool because you get yourself a cool folding stock like that and you're gonna be good to go to pretty much carry this thing everywhere you want. And the best thing is, this is a very proven system in here, so you're gonna get the ultimate in reliability. This version is the Gen 2 from Brownells, and basically it is compatible with any mil-spec AR lower. So you slap this thing on whatever your desired lower is, and you are gonna be good to go. No buffer spring, because all of that stuff is housed right inside the upper receiver, which allows you to have that fully folding and usable while folded stock design, or pistol design, depending on what the length of your upper, or if you've got a tax stamp on that thing. These uppers come 100% complete and ready to run in those lengths from 10.5 all the way up to 18. That adjustable gas piston system on there is really gonna let you dial this thing in depending on your ammo, or if you wanna run this thing with a suppressor. This specific one is not mine, it is a loaner from a good buddy of mine. So if you happen to see out there's a little bit of a weak ejection on the range, that's because I didn't want to change his gas settings and he's got this thing rigged up to run with one of his suppressors. What I was not going to do is run the Bushnell red dot that my buddy had put on there for some reason. So I'll put that Holosun 510 on there. So sorry, my friend, you don't have to do the gas system again, but you're gonna be re-zeroing your red dot because I forgot to mark where I took it off for you, but I'll buy you a beer. And if you think I'm being a little too critical on my buddy for that, just let me know down in the comments. So back to this upper receiver. This barrel is gonna be chambered in 223 wild. So you're gonna be able to run your 223 or your 5.56 as your heart desires. And you shouldn't have any issues with either of those on here. I ran both, ran totally fine. And then that end is going to be that 1/2x28 standard. And you can see my buddy's got his muzzle brake for his suppressor on there. But I did not borrow that because I can't borrow that from him, so I didn't run this with a suppressor. The way these Gen 2s are set up, you can see there are 4 screws on each side of that rail, so it's gonna be a little bit stronger and stiffer than the original Gen 1. And that upper receiver, depending on what length, is gonna come in at about 4.5 pounds. And another cool thing about this specific design is you can work on the gas system, take the rail off, and do everything you need to do up front without having to break down all of the internals inside, which can save you a little bit of time and a little bit of headache. The breakdown procedure on this thing is super easy, much easier than that for a field breakdown and cleaning. So definitely kept in line with the original AR-180 design because that's exactly how it came apart, just by turning out the charging handle and taking those dual recoil springs out. Although the way that Brownells did it is just a little bit easier than the original Armalite design. And as far as reassembly, you guessed it, just the reverse of that operation. Now let's move on to how this thing performed and felt out on the range. On the range, this thing definitely has a different feel to it than a lot of other stuff out there because it's a piston system. It's a 10.5-inch piston system, but it ran every type of ammo that I put through it, from self-defense ammo, high pressure ammo, 556, 223, XM193, M190, all the good stuff that you would want to be able to run through a setup like this, it ate all of it without issue. I did not run steel through this because I don't have any, because I only buy that as a last resort because I have terrible luck with everything I own when it comes to running steel. And I know, this is where the AK guys step in the room and say, well, if it doesn't need steel, it doesn't deserve brass. Feel free to do that with your AK. I don't want to do that with my AR. Getting into the accuracy, it's as accurate as you're gonna need a 10.5-inch upper receiver to be, and I did not go past 100 yards, but it gave me everything I needed and expected out of a 10.5-inch upper. As I said before, these come as complete upper assemblies, so you throw them on your mil-spec lower and you're good to go. This one, my buddy set up on a 17 design strip lower, which is good stuff. I have used those before, but I do wish he had treated it just a little bit better with the parts kit that he had chose. And the reason for that is the trigger he put in here is some mil-spec style trigger, but it is epically terrible, and that has nothing to do with the function of the upper receiver, but just something to note: buy a good solid lower parts kit when you put them in there. And then that ambi safety that's on here is somewhere between bad, worse, and terrible, and I just quite don't know where to put it. But upon activation, it gives me the feeling of a 1950s refrigerator door handle that's been rusted shut in the deep south somewhere. Now, where my buddy went completely right on this is he got a very nice Midwest Industries folding setup for the rear, which comes with a pistol length receiver extension on it, because you've got to stay in that certain length when you are putting a pistol brace on there to stay legal according to whatever opinion letter that's out there right now. So Midwest Industries has you covered there. That setup is very nice, very robust, all metal, does work folded, does work open. You can swing it out like that, and then it does lock in the fully open position, and it does not lock in the kind of folded position. It's just got a little bit of tension, so it's not gonna fly all over the place when you're not activating that stock. Now, this one is a loaner, but I've actually been wanting to try this BRN-180 for quite some time, since I saw him at SHOT Show, I think like 2018, and I just haven't been able to get my hands on one for long-term testing. So would I buy this thing? Because they're not exactly cheap, but they're definitely very cool. For me personally, I'm getting the 10.5, not only because you can make a folder out of it, but I've got a couple of SBR lowers on there, and the thing just functions flawlessly, and I really like what Brownells did on the overall design of this thing, keeping that AR 180 thing going on, but yet making small improvements to make it a little better than the original design. Now, if I had to change or improve upon one thing on this, I would say, give me a little bit more of a bold kind of a charging handle than the one that's on there. Now, that is very, very reminiscent of the original AR 180, but I'd like to see something, a little bit more modern and a little bit more bold, because quite frankly, that charging handle kind of looks like a drunk Cobra on tilt hanging out the side. And I'd like to see something, I guess, just a little bit more refined come out of this, especially for the price point. I don't know if it's just me, but folding stocks for me, they're kind of like Second Amendment fidget spinners. I could kind of just sit there and like fold and unfold them all day. So that's what I've got for you guys today on the BRN-180 10.5-inch Gen 2 upper right here. It's awesome stuff, and I can't wait to get my own, because I gotta get that Bushnell red dot back on here and give it back to my buddy. So make sure you guys get subbed up. Make sure you check out TriStar Trading, the swag store. We got the hats in. I think there's a few left. You can check those things out. Leave me a comment down below on your thoughts on whether you would even want one of these BRN-180s, and which length would you want them in? Would you want the 10.5, or do you want to go all the way up to, like, I think the 18 that they have now, which is pretty cool. I will post all those links for you at the build list on my website, so you can check all that stuff out if you're interested in picking any of it up. And I think I've got some promo codes or something for Brownells maybe in there, so check that stuff out. All that helps the channel. You can check out the Patreon if you want. Huge thank you to all of my Patreons. You guys get out there, have some fun on the range. Remember, if you stay ready, you ain't got to get ready. I will see you guys on the next one.